For any business to be successful, you need to have someone with a good blend of vision as well as a very clear understanding of themselves. When you build a business, it's important to take other people along on the journey. A lot of people say that it's lonely at the top. It's only lonely at the top if you make it that way. Hiring for attitude is so much more important than capability. I can't be the smartest person in the room, because if I am, I'm in the wrong room. The first thing that comes to mind is don't take yourself too seriously. If you live in a constant stress, that's not conducive to creativity. Don't innovate in a business, then eventually you die.
So I'm Alex Ward. I am a messaging expert. I'm a keynote speaker and the founder of Core Story. And I work with leaders and brands to help them speak with guts, heart, and real clarity. And essentially, that's what this podcast is all about. It's an extension of that. Hello and welcome to Naked at the Top. Today's guest is a growth-focused technology leader who's led $180 million businesses, fixed the unfixable, and founded multiple startups. He's built and led high-performing IT, software, and sales and operations teams. But what stands out most is how he leads people. He now runs Majestic Computer Technology, a digital advisory helping leaders grow revenue, cut costs, and sleep better at night by getting their IT, automation, and cybersecurity foundations right. He's also a trained family business advisor. But what stands out most about Tal is his congruency. What Tal says, what he thinks, and how he acts is all aligned. Tal, welcome to Naked at the Top.
Thank you for having me, Alex.
Now, Tal, we like to keep it have a bit of fun on this podcast. So I wanted to open up with something that I'd heard from your friend Alan around your name, and it said it's a bit of a magnet for puns and playful jokes. Do you have a favorite story of someone making a bit of fun at your name? I'd love to hear how you handle Tal wordplay.
Yeah. So look, Alex, I'm a migrant to this wonderful country of ours here in Australia. I came here as a teenager. In fact, I was 13 when I arrived here. And teenagers can be very, very cruel. Yeah. So it's what started off as someone having a go at me ultimately became a joke throughout my life. And I've had every variations of my name told to me. That I don't think you could come up with something new. I've had bath towel, kitchen towel, Taj Mahal, you name it. It's all come along at some point in time. But yes, I certainly find it funny nowadays. Probably didn't so much find it funny when I was 13 or 14, but we've had some good laughs on different variations of my name.
Do you find the, bringing in that kind of humor? I'm sure it was harder growing up. So do you find that seeing the lighter side and the humor that kind of helps with things like that?
Oh, look, absolutely. I often get people will ask who don't necessarily understand or know my background. I'll have people ask, "Oh, so is that it? Is it Tal short for something? Talbot, or what is it short for?" And I'll say something along the lines of, "No, that's growing up. We were very poor, and those shows where." TV shows where you have to buy a letter or buy a vowel, and they flip the letters around on the screen.
Countdown.
Yeah. My parents only had enough money for one vowel and two other letters. And
what kind of reactions do you get? Do people laugh, or
most of the time, I think people just don't know how to take me, Alex. They're just not sure, am I for real or what? I have a whole other story around our family name. So my surname, because that's not my original surname at birth. We could spend hours on this
Well, you're in good company because being British, we tend to be very sarcastic. So I do get the dry sense of humor. So and I do enjoy it. So so I'd love to just dive into you've obviously done a lot. You've had a few different businesses and worn many different hats. Like what is it about building businesses that you love so much?
I think in the first instance, it's a sense of control.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm a self professed or confessed, I should say, probably more than professed individual that likes um, control and things to be organized and so on and so forth. And so what I've tended to find is that um, when I'm running my own business, I have the greatest ability to express myself in the way in which I would like to express myself and to drive my own direction, drive my own views. Look, to be fair, I've worked for other people in the past as well over the course of my career. But I've just found that I've enjoyed the ability to chart my own course more.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Nice. And you've founded and built many startups, but also within the form that you shared with me, you've been part of, acquisitions and had to fix businesses when they haven't been doing well. So what's kind of one lesson that you've learned about that makes businesses truly resilient, either from the scratch or building them back up again?
I think that probably the first thing that comes to mind is leadership.
Mm.
I think that for any business to be successful, you need to have someone with a good blend of vision, as well as a very clear understanding of themselves and their own strengths and weaknesses.
Mm.
Not
Mm.
No one is good at everything. Understanding and being honest with yourself, or in my case, for me, to be honest with myself. If I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, it's about recognizing that and saying, well, for these particular elements, I need to surround myself with other people who are good at those other things that I'm not necessarily good at.
Mm.
It's also very important to uh, uh, not delay things that you don't enjoy doing.
Mhm.
Um, I endeavor as much as possible, and I'll say I'm human, so I'm not necessarily always doing what I know I should do, but as much as possible, I try to do the things that should be done first
Mm.
because it gets
Mm.
it out of the way.
So the hard tasks first thing in the morning. Yep.
Otherwise, what happens is that you end up not doing those hard tasks, right? So,
Mhm.
yeah, so building discipline and cadence around doing the stuff that you don't enjoy doing is incredibly important. Empathy is very important. I think that it's not, I think that there's a great distinction between empathy and sympathy, of course.
Mm.
Be empathetic is to put yourself in the shoes of somebody else and understand what they're thinking and how they're feeling. And that's not necessarily always possible. Uh, but um, whenever I'm having any conversation with any of our, uh, certainly like in the case of our business with my direct reports, it's understanding what stage they are in their lives and what they're going through, and how do we go about facilitating a better outcome for them? Because ultimately, Alex, it needs to be win-win, right?
Mhm.
Not good
Mhm.
for me to win and for other people to, there's a meme, um, and it's a business owner hanging out of the window in his brand new Ferrari or Lamborghini or something, and the employee of his is standing over outside of the car and saying, "Oh wow, that's a wonderful car you've got there." And that CEO says, "Yes, I have this new car because you've done really well, and if you continue to do really well next year, I'll have another one." When you build a business, it's important to make sure that you take other people along on the journey. Other people
Mhm.
need uh, to be successful in their own right. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Um,
Yeah.
so now you asked a multi-part question, I suppose.
Mhm.
So you asked, what does it take to build a good business? Having financial prudence is important. Yeah, I all too often see, and in fact, if you think about it, really in Australia, the majority of businesses are small businesses. We've got what, 1 point something million businesses in this country, or something ridiculous like that. The majority of them are employing well under 20 staff.
Yeah, and I think
Or you
it's something like 70% fail within the first 2 years as well. So that's quite a
the stats are not really encouraging, right? It
no.
doesn't exactly fill you with confidence to get up in the morning and say, I'm going to start a business today. And a lot of that, I feel, comes down to people are very passionate about whatever it is that they're doing. Otherwise, you wouldn't get up and start a business. Would it something you've got some kind of vocation that you feel very strongly about? It might be associated with a bigger cause. It might be just, this is how you're wired, or whatever the case may be. Yeah. So you start a business. That's not enough. That's, that having people talk about grit, people talk about tenacity, whatever words that they might choose to use. But that's not enough. You need to understand what are the metrics that you're going to measure yourself and the business to drive inertia, to gain the momentum around what constitutes success for you. Yeah. So some of those metrics are financial, some of them are, in whatever other areas, but really for a business owner or a business leader to set themselves a set of KPIs that they're going to hold themselves accountable to. I think it's also really important to have at least one mentor in your life at any point in time. It's very difficult for human beings to be critical of themselves. It's a lot easier to look at the positives and what it is that you're doing and not consider or take into account the things that you're not doing, or even the things that you said you're going to do, which you then don't do because it's like one of those hard things that, right? Coming to that part of the conversation from earlier. So having someone that holds you as a business owner, particularly in the early stages of business, to account. As the business grows, of course, that changes. So, I've been involved in much larger businesses in the past where we've had a board. It was a professional board. We hired and paid people to be involved on that board together with us. And that accountability took a completely different lens by that stage of a business. But in a smaller business, having someone, even if they're on the outside, because really at the end of the day, if you've got, and in my case, I've got a team of people, we have conversations periodically about how they're doing, what they like, what they don't like, how they're performing, what's going on with their KPIs, all those kind of things, right? But as the CEO or managing director, whatever you want to call it, you don't have that luxury. So somehow build it into the structure of the business. From a financial prudence perspective, and that to touch back on the issue of fixing businesses, invariably, when businesses are not working, it's less often because they didn't have a good idea, and it's more often because they didn't execute something very well.
Right.
So being really clear on what are the revenue metrics, what are the profitability metrics, how do you make sure that you've got enough money? Excuse me. Well, how do you make sure that you've got enough money available within the business to weather problems that you didn't anticipate? Spending a lot of time on anticipating what are the likely problems, what are the potential eventualities. People will often plan for some eventualities, but not necessarily for all. It's not enough to just plan for what would happen if you lost your biggest client, or if you lost 30% of your clients tomorrow, and how would the business survive that, and what you would need to do at that point in time. But also to plan for what would happen if you all of a sudden had an increase of 50% in business activity. How would you sustain that? What would that look like? How would you go about ramping up resources within the business that rapidly? Do you even have the mechanisms to enable that kind of growth in the business, or will it break it? Yeah.
Mm.
So I find, it's not a cliche, but it's certainly an overused saying. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, and planning for both what would be considered to be a really bad outcome, as well as what could be considered to be a really good outcome, is equally as important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you've certainly given me a long list of things to look at. But I think it's important, and you often hear people talking about, being in the present moment. But as you say, you've got a plan for both events, both things that may or may not happen. I was listening to a podcast a few days ago, and this person saying that he'd grown to a certain point where he hired a big team, but then what happened is his biggest client dropped out, and then he eventually had to close the business down because he hadn't planned for all those different eventualities. So yeah, it's really important. So for you, you mentioned there as well, when you're the CEO or running a company, you don't always have that, the peer to peer. So who's been a mentor for you in those instances?
Wow. Okay. So look, I think I've been incredibly lucky because I've had a few very good people in my life, uh, who have been willing to contribute some of their time.
Mm.
I mean, that's really the simplest way to look at it. So over the last few years, there's a fellow who was very dear to me by the name of Michael Lapin. We meet, not so much more recently, he's been traveling more, but certainly over a number of years now, we meet, reasonably regularly. We have lunch together somewhere at one of our many favorite places, sit down and talk about what's going on in the business. Michael has had a very long career, predominantly in the technology sector. He's been managing director, CEO for a number of very notable companies, including Wang Computers, which is a very large global IT firm. They don't exist anymore, but suffice to say that he's done a whole bunch of really exciting things in his life, and he's happy to share those things with me, and he challenges me on a few different things. There's a fellow called Gary Hoover, who has been in my life now for over 15 years, I guess. Gary and I, first and foremost, friends. And when I set out to do what I'm doing now, which ultimately became Majestic, and we made another investment since then, Gary was very keen to help me. It was a really low point in my life. I'd exited another business, not in the best possible way, and we were sitting there having lunch one day, and he said to me, mind you, at that stage I'm in my mid-40s, and he said to me, "Tal, so what do you want to do when you grow up?" Right? And literally over the course of lunch, on the back of an envelope, or it wasn't an envelope, it was a serviette, we drew the basis of a plan for what became what we're doing now.
Oh, wow. So Majestic started on a napkin.
And more or less, yes. So that was pretty cool.
Mm.
And really, in that particular instance, Gary didn't just offer a hand in the form of ongoing mentorship, but we actually at that point in time struck a partnership. Gary he's not actively involved in the from an executive management perspective, but in a sense, I have a board with one other director, and he's a minority shareholder in the business, so he takes a real active interest in what we're doing. But we have regular conversations, and he's got an incredible memory. He also writes a lot in his iPad, so we'll have a conversation. He'll write things down, and 6 months from now, he'll say, Tal, by the way, that thing that you said you were going to do, what happened with that? Well, I haven't seen anything about it. What's going on, right? So we'll have those kind of conversations, and they can be pretty robust conversations. And
Mm-mm.
I welcome those. So in what I'm running now, which is much smaller business than what I've run in the past, I don't have the luxury of hiring and paying a professional board. And really, for me, Gary is that. Uh, Gary has also run a number of different businesses. Amongst other things, he was one of the founding group that founded a small business. I don't know if you've heard of it, called carsales.com.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I've heard of that one.
So
Wow.
he's done a few things in his life that have put him in really good stead.
Mm,
And Gary's on the board, on our board. He's on the board of a number of other organizations
mhm.
that he's involved with that are doing really well. So yeah, that's important.
Yeah. So a good piece of advice then for our listeners is, even if it is a small company, then you can kind of get your own, almost like your own board by having these mentors and people in your life that can guide you and support you.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
exactly.
look, I think, I mean, for me, I'm not motivated by any kind of greed. So I was very grateful for Gary's involvement. I mean, it was monumental for me. It was, I would say, quite a low point in my life, and Gary, knowing what I've done in the past and seeing what I've done in the past, came and pulled me out.
Mm,
Uh,
mm,
and here we are today.
mm,
Uh, uh, I, I can't thank him enough, really. So in that instance, considering having someone with an equity stake in the business, even if it's not a stake at a level that can alter the course of ultimate decision making in the business, but for someone to, yeah, if you can afford to pay a non-exec board or board members to get involved in regular with cadence in board meetings, and you put the right structure in place, by all means. But that
mhm,
doesn't necessarily work for the majority of businesses. When we spoke earlier about businesses being small, um, that doesn't necessarily work. So starting off with someone that has an active interest because they've got an equity stake can set things in motion. We're at a
mhm.
point now where we have the capacity to pay directors. So, so we've moved forward into that model where we're doing that as well. But yeah, it's horses for courses.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all about relationship building, isn't it? And having those supportive people around you, and you are as a leader within your business, you offer that support to your teams. And as you know, I spoke to a few people ahead of this interview to get a sense of,
Uh,
what's Tal like as a leader. And Nathan, who's your operations manager, he told me that you're not a micromanager. You set the outcomes, you offer the mentorship, but then, you get out of the way essentially. And Alan also said that you're great at making sure people have the right opportunities, tools, and environment to succeed. How does that feel hearing, other people describe your leadership? How does it feel hearing that back? And
Look,
it
it's
is
very,
it
very
correct?
warm and fuzzy, really. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people say that it's lonely at the top. It's only lonely at the top if you make it that way. I don't want to be lonely at the top. So the idea here is that um, you drag people along with you, and dragging people along with you, you can't do it. You can't force people that situation. Um, it needs to be by design.
Mhm,
Um, so I think that, I mean, I've experienced micromanagement in the past.
mhm,
It's very unfulfilling, particularly for people who are very capable in their own right. I mean, it's all good and well. And look, I acknowledge the fact that there are people in this world who just want to be told what to do.
Mm.
And that's their lot, and they're happy with that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and you need some of those people in a business. You need the people that you can depend on, that they'll get up, they'll do the process work that's required, they'll do it to a consistent standard every day, but they're not the ones that are going to innovate. They're not the ones that are going to come up with the great ideas that make businesses great. Yeah. So to surround yourself with a bunch of really clever, very capable people, and then start telling them every minute of every day what you want them to do, it's counterintuitive, really. Yeah. So no, I definitely don't do that. In fact, I think that all that will do is just create more work for me.
It's important that you have, all the right people around you, and, being able to recruit the people that will work well with you and with the team. How do you go about doing that? Do you have a particular recruitment style that you use within your company?
We use those same or similar methodologies when we're looking to hire people, as well as in the way in which we look to engage with new clients. We use a bunch of different HR tools. We do profiling from a personality perspective. We try and gain an understanding of the individual's motivators. I think certainly aptitude plays a part in the equation, depending on what role we're hiring for. Obviously, if it's a more junior role, it's less about aptitude, more about attitude. In more senior roles, you want to know that the individual has a track record of success in a certain area. We're still at the point in time in our lives as a business, in the life of the business, that we will hire individuals who haven't necessarily done a particular role before. So it'll be a growth
Mhm.
opportunity for them. As a business matures, you're then looking for people who already have a demonstrable track record doing exactly or the same thing, or in a similar role, or in a similar capacity. Uh,
Mhm.
so, but I would say first and foremost, it's understanding how is it that the new individual joining our team, how are they going to complement what the rest of the team are like behaviorally? So we want some people that are quieter. We want some people that are really loud. We want some people who overshare, and we want some people that undershare. We
Mhm.
want some people who are who like different things. We
Mhm.
want people who even simple things like having a different writing style, for instance,
Mhm. Mhm.
so that people then have the opportunity to challenge each other. If we
Mhm.
have facsimile copies in a business, um, no growth happens.
It's similar in life as well. I often enjoy meeting someone that thinks different to me or has a different opinion, and because I want to learn from them. It's not like I'm right and you're wrong. It's like, oh, that's different to how I think, and I then get curious. I'm like, tell me more. Sometimes people don't always want to talk about it, specifically if it's political. I'm because they think it's gonna be an argument. I'm like, "No, I'm genuinely curious. Let me understand, why did you support Trump, for example?" But some people shy away from that and don't enjoy it. But I think it's really important. I spoke to Nathan yesterday, and he told me about when you interviewed him for the job, it was a lot more conversational than he might have expected. And really, you were obviously really tapping into, him and learning more about him. How important do you think that is for hiring the right people?
Huh. Um, well, that's how I behave. So it
Mm.
would stand to reason that it's super important for me. Um, look, um, and I'm mindful of not speaking in cliches. Yeah,
Mm.
um, but hiring for attitude is so much more important than capability.
Mm.
I think that technical skills. We're in a technical space. I mean, every industry has its technical elements, of course, but we are in IT, in technology.
Mm.
So everything we do is all about the the technical capability. The technical capability is completely useless unless you've got the capacity to convey it and share it with others. Explain to others what it is that you're doing, why you're doing it. The people that we work with don't really understand what we understand in the same way. If we can't pass that message across, it's going to go nowhere. For me, what a person feels, what the person's belief system is, what do they do in the outside world, how do they interact with their family, whether do they have a wife or a husband or children or dog or cat, that doesn't matter what it is. Understanding more broadly the human is far more important when deciding how to bring pieces onto the board. There is a particular business philosophy which uses certain terminology, and the terminology talks to having the right people on the bus and having the right people in the right seats on the bus. Now, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to work out whether people are in the right seats. And that's important, absolutely. But making sure that the right people are on the bus is even more important. Because all it takes is one wrong person on the bus to completely disrupt where the bus is heading.
Has that ever happened in your within one of your businesses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex, I've been involved in running business now for over 3.5 decades. Let me tell you, it's happened more than once. With all of the good theories and all of the good philosophies that we want to have and all of the experience I've hired, hundreds of people, you never, ever cease to make some mistakes. And they can happen for a variety of reasons. Most often than not, the decision, I think that when I look at it in hindsight, I realized that I've overlooked certain things because I was pressed into a position that I needed somebody in a seat. So every time that I put getting a seat filled ahead of making sure that the right people are on the bus, it has the potential to have a negative ripple effect.
So if it's been more of a quick decision sometimes?
Not necessarily about quick. Sometimes we operate in market conditions that mean that, we're looking for a specific skill set. It's hard to come by. And I fall into this sense of, that'll be okay. That's not a big problem. And that little problem becomes a big problem at some point. Yeah. So I think that every time that happens, what's really important is to stop and say, well, okay, what's really more important here? To fill the seat or to make sure that we've got the right people on the bus? I would say that every time having the right people on the bus is more important. You can completely undo a whole business by having the wrong person. So even if it means certainly nowadays, even if it means that we don't secure a contract with a new client because I don't have the capacity or whatever the case may be, not something that happens very often because I think we planned ourselves reasonably well. But even if that were to happen, my reaction would be, okay, we'll let the contract go because bringing the wrong person in will cause bigger problems.
Yeah. So that's being aware of, that's more long-term thinking, isn't it? Knowing that, in the short term, you could bring someone on, but it's not necessarily the right thing for the business in the long term.
Yeah. And look, the same applies in our relationships with our clients. Not every client relationship or prospective client engagement is one that a business owner or a business leader or should proceed with. Relationships, whether they're relationships with people, with staff, with other stakeholders, with clients, every one of those relationships are two-way street.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, so important. I
Mm.
want to do a little bit of a quick gear change in terms of, diving into, the more personal aspects of Tal. So I spoke to
Is that the
Jenny.
naked part?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So I spoke to Jenny yesterday ahead of this, and she told me that you're quite OCD and your house is immaculate and your ironing is meticulous, and that you plan parking before every meeting. So I would love to ask you, what's the most Tal thing you've done this week in terms of planning and structure?
I start every day reviewing a list of items that I prepared at the end of the previous business day. There are very few exceptions when something goes awry and I don't have myself organized so that I start with a clear desk the following morning. I recall on many occasions, not in the business I'm involved in now, but in a previous business that I was involved with, people who would new hires into the business would get toured around our headquarters, and so someone would walk the individual into my office at some point to introduce them to me as a director in the business, and they'd come in and they would say, "This is Tal, blah blah blah. We're not quite sure what Tal does because there's never anything on his desk." And look, so yes, that's how I am. But I think that we don't have boundaries in our brains. I think that how we are externally is a reflection of how we are internally. And
Mm,
if you are disorganized,
mm,
then that leads to chaos. Yeah.
mm,
So,
mm,
what's the most me thing that I've done this week? Look, we're only at the start of the week, but um, probably that I spent time watching the video that you'd sent me in preparation,
mhm,
because that's just
mhm,
how I am. I prepare. I was seated at my desk and had everything turned off so it doesn't disrupt me 10 minutes before the meeting. Um, I was composed. I knew that we're going to catch up and have a chat. I've had lots of these kind of conversations in the past, so I feel very
mhm.
comfortable in my own skin. I also think that it's important to have time to reflect. I call it navel gazing. Yeah. In fact, I use another term for it. I say I need to have time in my day to look at my belly button and pick out the fluff.
I love that.
Look, I'm also very mindful that there are people who operate best when there is a level of chaos.
Mm,
Yeah. So, I mean, I was trying to avoid using the term OCD when we spoke earlier, and I spoke about how organized I am. But yeah, that's fair. Uh,
mm,
I am. I own it, and I understand that I operate best when things are organized. Other people, their creativity comes out of
mm.
uh, and disorganized. Sorry, an organized disorganization. Yeah,
I call it organized chaos.
organized chaos.
Wouldn't want to see my desk, Tal.
Right. Okay. And look, and that's fine.
Mm,
That's the beauty about this world. We're not all the same. If we're all, as I said, if we're all copies of each other, how boring would it be?
mm,
And for that
mm,
matter, how would we actually achieve anything? Creativity comes at the point of challenge.
mm,
It emanates out of disagreement, healthy disagreement, but disagreement nonetheless. I have a certain point of view. You have a different point of view. We're going to out it out, and whichever one is the better out of the two, that's the one that's going to mean, and no ego, right? So yes, look. I like things organized. I don't have 700 icons on my desktop on my computer.
On that point, just what you said there, do you like to be challenged by your team? Like if you come up with something and they might disagree or have a different approach, do you like that challenge within the team as well?
I don't just like it. I crave it, Alex. I can't be here's another cliche coming up. I can't be the smartest person in the room because if I am, I'm in the wrong room. Yeah. So I have to have people around me who challenge me, challenge the status quo, looking for opportunities for improvement. I mean, so Majestic is an ISO accredited, ISO certified company. We firmly believe that systems are everything, every respect in a business, and part of the quality system that is ISO 9001 is the whole concept of opportunities for improvement.
Mm.
I can't be everywhere. Can't see it. It's not possible. So how do we make sure that we've got a culture that promotes, hey, we're doing this thing. We could be doing it differently. That different is actually ultimately better. Well, let's put it down on the list and then say when we're going to do it by and actually get on with the job of doing that. Yeah. There have been lots of things that without my team, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Yeah, it's important. It's important. Well, we're coming towards the end of the episode, Tal, and what I love to do at the end is do a little quick fire round. So you can either answer, dodge, or throw it back at me. All right. So, what was the last thing you asked ChatGPT?
To help me with planning for a 3-year-old birthday party.
Love that. Did you get some good answers?
I did, yes. They weren't necessarily received very well, but I tried. I thought they were great answers, but anyway.
What was your favorite one?
So it went through and actually outlined and detailed what food to have, what themes, some potential themes that are, because I haven't been 3 for a long time. So I'm not sure what are the things that 3-year-olds might like, and my own children are older, so I haven't been exposed to that for a long time. So just getting a view of what themes, what colors, what food, what all that sort of stuff, I think was really important.
Nice, nice. I've got my son's going to be 2 on Sunday, so maybe I
Oh,
should.
there you go. So,
Yeah.
mind you, it's the prompting is really important, but that's all other.
Yes. What's a habit or system that you couldn't live without? You personally,
That I can't or couldn't.
that you couldn't live without.
Having my sock and undies drawer really organized. I have everything color coded and lined up. I don't have a drawer where, how people, I know because my daughters do that. They put the 2 socks together and they fold them over to bundle them up so that they can keep the 2 pairs together. I can't live with that. Mine are
Oh, really? Oh, that's what I do.
mine are folded.
Do you put all your own washing away then to make sure it's done correctly?
Not always, but I've been, again, very fortunate that I have very loving family who appreciate my quirks. And over time, they've learned that this is how I do things. So if they happen to put things away, they do it the way that I like to have it done. And likewise, if I go and put stuff away in their drawer, I'll do it the way that they do it. Isn't that what caring for each other are all about?
Yeah. I do have my husband's more the domesticated one in our house, but he puts my clothes in the wrong place. So I do tell him, I'll just leave mine. I'll put my own clothes away. And he's like, well, you've got 24 hours to do it, because I often take a while to put my clothes away.
Get along really well with my eldest daughter.
What's one thing that you absolutely have to iron?
My business shirts,
Yeah.
even the non-iron ones. They're never really completely non-iron.
Yeah, Jenny told me that you iron everything.
Yeah, yes, I iron my t-shirts as well.
What made you laugh this week?
Our conversation now, it's been wonderful. But look, I think that almost every day, so we have full town meet because we're not all in the same place, and we've got people out and clients and or just before meetings and whatever. So the best way to get everyone together is online. We do that 3 times a week. And almost every time someone will crack a joke about something or say something funny. We've got a couple of people on the team who are super funny. One in particular who you just wouldn't pick. Yeah. But he comes out with some curlers that just crack everyone up. So I love having that sort of banter. And most recently, just before this meeting, I had a meeting actually with Jenny, and she made me laugh. So that was fantastic. She pointed something out that I thought was she's very perceptive. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I really like Jenny.
And the things that make you laugh most are the truths. If you think
Yes.
about comedians, when they stand up and, when do people laugh? People laugh because they're saying something that is real and it's maybe uncomfortable and whatever else. It makes you laugh. Right?
Yeah. My friend recently just did a stand-up comedy course. I was going to do it with her, but I couldn't do it. And she said that when they teach you that, just to look for the everyday things. So they're like, just take a notebook with you, and just every day something annoys you or frustrates you, write it down, because that's where the quality jokes are. Because if I notice it, you'll probably notice it too. So then you stand on stage, you say a joke about it, you laugh because you're like, oh yeah, that is annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah. On that point, Alan was telling me about the 4 shots in the coffee. Could you just tell us that anecdote? Because I thought it was very funny, and it gave an insight into your character.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm not quite sure whether it's an insight into my character or an insight into his, or maybe the alignment between. I think
Yeah.
it's probably the alignment between the two. But Alan and I, and I find with highly intelligent people that that tends to be an element of one-upmanship, but in the most positive way. So it's in funny ways, it's in quirky ways. It's not, oh, I'm smarter than you, or I did something better than you, but it's those kind of little things that make the difference in a relationship and really build a true relationship.
Mhm.
So the two of us went to grab a coffee before a meeting one day, and we walked into the coffee shop, and I said to the fellow behind the counter who was taking our order, I said, I'd like a long black with an extra shot. And the fellow looked back at me and he says, well, so the long black already has 2 shots in it. Is that okay? And I said, no. However many shots you put in the coffee, put an extra one, because I need kind of like a slap on the face to keep me going for the rest of the day. So he took down my order and he turns to Alan and he says, right, so what would you like? He says, I'll have what he's having with an extra shot, because I need to have one more shot. Right. And so it became the 4-shot coffee, and a very a meeting that we had, that we were both at together a couple of weeks ago. Alan was running late. I went to a coffee shop to grab some coffees, grabbed a coffee for him with 4 shots.
I love that. So will he always get 4 shots now whenever you buy him a coffee?
Yeah, look, I think that, we need to watch his heart, I suppose. But
When he told me that yesterday, I thought, oh, that's funny. I'll need to bring it in. All right. Well, I could honestly speak to you for hours, Tal, but I know we need to wrap it up. So I always like to ask one last question, more for the audience. So almost like gift for the audience to pass it on. So you've obviously built, lots of businesses and led teams, but you've kept it fun along the way. So what would you say to someone right now that's building a business, they've just got their head down, they're really clear on their results, but they're kind of forgetting to enjoy it? What would your advice be?
I guess probably the first thing that comes to mind is don't take yourself too seriously. I mean, enjoyment means different things for different people. So I can't sit there and give someone advice who likes other stuff to and base it on what I might like. But just make sure that there is there's a distinction between that you understand as an individual what makes you tick, but that you understand what are the times when you need to be serious and what are the times that you can let go a little. If you live in a constant state of stress, that's not conducive to creativity. If you don't innovate in a business, then eventually you die. Yeah. The other piece, which is helps a lot in the context of having fun, is always build a repeatable revenue stream into the business. Yeah. Every business that starts with 0 in sales at the start of every month has a much more stressful life. Now, in saying that, there are in fast-moving consumer goods, in traditional services context, like the hairdressers or whatever. Yes, every month you may well start with 0, and it might be harder in some of those instances to build a repeatable revenue stream or a plannable revenue stream. But one of the first things that I always look at in any business that I'm involved in is, how do I ensure that there is an element of revenue that comes in every month that's going to come in next month, and I don't have to start next month with 0. That's one of the first questions that I ask myself. If you solve some of those existential issues, it's easier to then get into the swing and into a cadence and be comfortable in your skin and have some fun with it along the way.
Fantastic advice. Thank you. Thanks so much for joining me, Tal. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you.